Hello everyone, Jordan Dutra here, and you know what day it is. It is March 18th, which is my birthday. Now I have turned 30 years old. Yes, no longer in my 20s, but now into the next decade mark. I still think time goes by too fast during the years. I was 25 and a half when I started the channel and kept making birthday videos since I started. And since I always do birthday videos every year, what is the theme for this? Well, it is going to be my personal one, and I try to think of a better theme. So for this 30th birthday video, I wanted to do that. I'm sure people are going to know about me. No, it's not the ones I did like my memories, birthday gifts, losing someone I loved, etc. No, it's on media. Like, yeah, this is the channel, and people want to know how media changed my life. And since it's my video, I want to talk to you about my story about some media means to me and what it has done for me. So sit back and enjoy. We'll be going in order. Now, since I was a baby in 1995, I clearly don't remember what the first movie I ever saw, but my older brother did own a bunch of VHS, and some I remember he owned. My brother did tell me that our family went to the theaters to see Toy Story, in which it did come out the same year I was born. I don't remember seeing it in theaters, but I do remember my brother bought it on VHS on Halloween 1996, in which I was 1. But yeah, aside from what was the first movie I saw, I did have a lot of memories watching them, and I talk about it when I get to segments. Moving on to TV. TV shows is, again, a pretty tough one of what was the first show I ever watched. In my old house, during when I was a toddler, there was 3 TV. One in the living room, one in the room, I used to call it the playroom, and one in my parents' bedroom. The living room was one I used for cable stations, and one I remember watching the channel was none other than Nickelodeon. This is not the first show I watched, but I remember watching Rugrats so much. Aside from the living room TV, I used to watch PBS Kids shows in my parents' bedroom in the morning with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street Ron. And then when my brother used to have Thomas the Tank Engine VHS, I usually watched them in the playroom. But yeah, I can say about TV shows in which that's all I got besides some other ones. Out of the main 3, video games was the one I did remember the first one I ever saw. I mentioned this before in one of my videos that my brother owned a Super Nintendo, in which that was the first video game console our family owned. And since I was very young, 2 of the video games I ever saw were NBA Jam, in which I've talked about it before, and the other one was Yoshi's Island. I can remember the moment when my brother popped the game in, and then the Nintendo logo on the screen with the music box playing, which sounds like a lullaby song. That's when I started seeing video games. I don't remember what was the first video game I ever played because when I was little, I was bad at video games, but over time got better. And besides Super Nintendo, my brother did own a Game Boy with multiple games he had, and this is before Pokemon wasn't out at the time. By the time I was getting a little older, the Super Nintendo stayed at my grandparents' house for so long, and it was time to take it to the recent house. Now, as a baby, there were little toys that babies played, and one I remember at age 1 was these toys that Fisher-Price made, in which I did own. One toy I really could have gotten, and that is the Tickle Me Elmo. Those were huge back in 1996, and I was still 1, and I was a Sesame Street fanatic. I did own Beanie Babies, those were good. I remember having plushies like Barney, don't ask, Bugs Bunny, and Tweety. Yeah, weird that I had a Tweety plushie, in which Space Jam would have been out at the time. But another toy memory is, of course, these Thomas the Tank Engine die-cast metal toys my brother owned, made by Ertl. And man, he collected those. I do remember playing them in the bathtub, no joke. But yeah, those are some of the toys, and maybe later down the line I could talk about some other toys I did own, not just the ones I mentioned. Now, I wasn't a book reader during the years, but I did like reading them and seeing pictures of them. Of course, my brother owned the Thomas books. He even owned the book Toodle, yeah, that one, and not The Little Engine That Could. I remember seeing or reading some like the Dr. Seuss books, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, The Berenstain Bears, and this one. And this was before I started preschool. And let's get to the last section for media, music. I'm not gonna say what was the first music or song I've ever heard, but there were so many I listened to during those years. Even CDs, which were big during those times. My brother owned a Space Jam soundtrack and even the Chicago Bulls soundtrack. He had a Walkman, a brand of portable audio players. But there's one memory I remember the most. You see, my mom would put on a music cassette tape, and one of them was Shania Twain. Yeah, you know her. The one song that I loved from hers, and that is I Feel Like a Woman. And I'm not making this up, people. When that song was on, I would run around the dining room table in circles, and I did have that adrenaline rush. But yeah, that's everything about the media and my experience with them when I started. But let's get to the lessons I learned from them. Through media, I learned the lessons in storytelling and fun, and everything it taught me. In movies and TV shows, I followed the popularity it gotten and how the maturity it had. For example, in Home Alone, every kid cared about the boy Kevin and the slapsticks to get rid of the burglars. But when you get older, the most important scene is when Old Man Marley talks to Kevin at church. Like, I finally get it when I was an adult. Or like in SpongeBob SquarePants. My favorite as a kid was SpongeBob because I was more the naive one. But during the end of my teenager years, I finally changed my list of who my favorite character in SpongeBob, and that was Squidward. Everyone in the fandom has said Squidward is the most relatable character in the show. I mean, I'm not always grouchy, it's just the mood I get in real life. This bit in the episode My Pretty Seahorse, I like that quote that Squidward said. Besides those, I learned that shows can be intelligent. Besides Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street, in which those shows were great for kids from the start. I'm talking about Rugrats and Thomas the Tank Engine. And while I get that Rugrats is a show for little kids because there's babies and they're talking, adults in real life may not like that, but I have seen adults that like Rugrats. It's not the babies that talk in that level, it's the parents in the show. I still love this line from Stu.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Why on earth are you making chocolate pudding?
Because I've lost control of my life.
I can understand that Klasky and Supo didn't want the show to dumb down the audience. Rugrats is a show that treated its audience with a level of intelligence. Same goes to Thomas the Tank Engine. I get it, it's a kid's show with smiley talking face trains, but it's not like that. The show has the realistic universe they lived in, the darker stories influenced by real life events for trains from before. That's what makes the show so special. This, along with Rugrats, as well as any other shows I watched, like Scooby-Doo or whatever, had got me something that I will be smart someday, and not say, this is a stupid show. In movies, I praise them so much for how much it changed my life over time. Even the guilty pleasure movies, to be precise. And while it has problems, I have a soft spot for them no matter what. Sometimes it's the complete opposite. For example, I did watch some movies when I was a kid and liked them for what it was, but when I watched them in less than 20 years, I don't like them and don't hold up. And yeah, in my life, I taught about criticisms, especially these two. Now, as for video games, I learned that I had trouble back then, but over time, I learned about why these games were challenging, or something I didn't learn from before. I love the Pokemon games, but I had so many struggles throughout the series, until Diamond and Pearl games came out. My goal was to make my own team and beat the champion. Thankfully, I got better over time in later games. Other past games I couldn't beat either, because I was very young, like Yoshi's Island, or it was too frustrating, like Super Mario Sunshine. But again, I got better over time thanks to walkthroughs. Other games were a pain to get, but I made it. This is why video games helped me get through the game and talked about its strong points and its weak points. And while I do struggle games as of today, I will get to finishing them, especially this game. There's so many I can go on and on about media, but really, they taught me so many. even characters in media. I can't name them all, but there's some I admire. Another thing I learned in media is the history, and it's not just media, but celebrities. I appreciate some of them as of today, like Zendaya or Jenna Ortega, but even ones I remember and later on had the downfalls. Even adult celebrities during the life I read during the years, like Walt Disney. Everyone loves the brand Disney, and I wanted to know how the original creator did in the cartoon business. This is the kind of thing that interests me in my life, or anyone out there. But yeah, that was a lot to say about the importance of media, and this is why I wanted to say on my 30th birthday. But that's all I got for this video, and since I've done so many birthday videos in previous years, I'm thinking about not doing these types of birthday videos. Like, I will do a video on my birthday, but it won't be the ones I already did before. And before I wrap this video up, I do have a special 30th birthday tribute I made with me during my lifetime with the song Landslide by Fleetwood Mac. Unfortunately, with songs, they're going to get a copyright claim using it, but no worries. I'm not going to upload it here. I will send the video down onto Google Drive. I'll put the link of the video in the description for those that want to see it. I'm also going to download it on my phone, and then I can send it to people via social media, so it will be better doing that than not finding it on YouTube. So yeah, once again to you all, for the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. And for even reaching 700 subscribers since it reached a few days ago. Wish me a happy birthday, and I will always see you all for more videos.